So as you all know, we've been running Homecoming since 2018. The festival started as a real cultural exchange for people that wanted to come to Nigeria to see what's going on, but also to really amplify the talent that is coming out of Nigeria specifically and make them the star of the festival. I think for me personally, one of the biggest things for me was education. Like, I'd been working in the UK. I was working with an artist called Skepta. We'd had this amazing journey. We'd gone around the world. We'd pushed UK culture. We'd talked about authenticity, ownership, like really all the things that make musicians great. And then when we came to Nigeria, we were like, how do we share what we've learned to a territory that is better talent than the UK, but in terms of infrastructure is a little bit behind? And every year I'd been like, I want to do education. I want to do more in education. I want to teach people. But funnily, for everything that we'd seen in terms of sponsorship, no one wants to sponsor education. No one thinks education is valuable in terms of like wanting to like make it a big thing and like really have that knowledge share. So this today has been a labor of love from our team and all the amazing panelists and people that have come to share their time and knowledge. So I just want to thank everyone for supporting us on this journey and like making this become a reality, because it's really important to me personally. So today we're going to talk about empowering Africa through creative cash flow. And it's really about tangible takeaways on how we can build the economy here in Africa, Nigeria specifically. Now, I think that we all know there's been the buzzword of Nigeria. You can't escape it. You cannot escape Nigeria right now. You cannot escape the growth potential. You cannot escape that phrase, creative economy. I've read it more in the last year than I've ever read it in my whole life. And I think that it's really important when you think about potential to think about how that potential is going to benefit the place it's coming from. And sometimes when we think about potential, a lot of us, me included, I didn't grow up in Nigeria. I grew up in the UK. So as much as I am here today doing this, I'm still somewhat of an outsider to some degree. I'm just trying to do my best, right? So when you have people like me and other people that are enthusiastic about the potential of Africa, one of the main things for me is that how do you start by thinking about how it's going to benefit Africa? How's it going to benefit Nigeria before your own ideas come into play, right? So I think there's a bit of an exchange there and a conversation around that. But also my main thing is how do we empower this growing youth? There's so many young people in this country that are so working, so talented, so inspired to work in this sector. How do we give them some tangible ways that they can enter this space and actually help us grow it so our children can have a thriving cultural economy when they grow up? So I'm going to start with myself and do some introductions. I'm Grace Ladoja. I'm the founder of Homecoming Festival, and I also co-founded a cultural global studio called Metallic Inc. in the UK.
Hi, can you hear me? Okay, hi. My name is Ibi Abidure. I'm the EVP of Music at Chocolate City. And I'm also the founder of Anala, which is an initiative train young females in production, songwriting, and engineering.
Hi, my name is Godwin Tom. I am the I'm the manager overseeing West and East Africa. But I'm also the founder of the Music Business Academy for Africa, which is currently the most advanced music business program on the continent. This year we registered over 370 students, and their graduation is next Saturday.
Well, hi everyone. Hello? Okay, good. Hi everyone. My name is Opeyemi Redumare. I'm a managing partner at Technological Partners, and I'm the co-founder at the SARS Academy. That's all.
Hi, I'm Dapo Visayo, founder of Superforce Entertainment. That's it.
Okay, amazing. So I'm going to start with you, Godwin. So when we talk about this buzzword, cultural economy, what does that word actually mean, and how do you think it can benefit Nigerians in this growing entertainment industry?
You're right. It is a buzzword. Well, what it means to me is it's a way to describe the revenue that should be coming out of the ecosystem. That's it. How do we ensure people get jobs? How do we ensure people eat, feed families? And that's what it means to me. But I think the bigger problem is it's become a term used to collect money. So people go around the world and say, look, we're supporting the creative economy of Africa. The same thing they've done to Makoko for a long time. And they get the money and you don't see the effects. Like, you can't take that much money and we don't see the effects of what it should be. For example, there should be clarity in job opportunities, like what jobs are available, what businesses are we investing this money in, what sectors of the industry are we investing this money in. So we don't see that. What we see is what it is. I've said what it's supposed to be. What it is, what the creative economy of Africa is where I plug a suction pipe to pull out creative and IP endeavors into markets that I can own and monetize. That's what it's become. It's not about how do we build a local economy and a local ecosystem that will thrive so we can work with them to do more. It's become, where do I connect my business or my project to be able to extract the talent that exists into a market that I can generate money. And that is my biggest problem with that term.
Do you know what? You summarized it perfectly, but what I took most from that is that what it should be. It should be, how do we support this ecosystem to grow it and make sure that we own it? So Ire, I went to a talk with you recently and you did an amazing summary. It was in about a minute of he broke down how one person can feed 500 creatives, right? And I think that as young people here, you should think about that. And sometimes I always say, I was an artist manager and I run a festival. Bottom line, that's what I do as my job, right? But I still get all the benefits of working with artists. And sometimes I think that some people get sucked into trying to be in the job that they're not necessarily best at because they think that, oh, that's what I like the most or that's what I'm into. But when you look at an ecosystem, there's so many creatively. And I think that when I would just give the example. So I worked with Skepta. He was fully independent, meaning that there was no label involved. Meaning one thing which is great, he owns all of his money. But the second part is that you have to do all the admin. So I remember 1 month we paid 500 individual people that had worked on with us in 1 month. That means we fed 500 different people from one person. So when I talk about that ecosystem, there was a photographer, there was a stylist, there was an art director, there was a set designer, there was a live show producer, there's a sound engineer, there's all these amazing other jobs to have in this sector. And I think that sometimes we focus on being the star. And I say it all the time because I work with an amazing producer called Sars. Me and Ire both like him. Arguably the most exciting person in the continent. But when I work with Sars, I'm so happy because ultimately Sars, as a producer, is going to make more money than any artist because he's just going to have the rights. It's really clear when you split it, right? But also, he has less stress and less drama. He doesn't have to do stuff. He doesn't have to have a lifestyle. He doesn't have to do all these things that you're supposed to do as artists. He doesn't have to have a stylist on retainer. He doesn't have to have all these other things. So when you look at it just strictly from a business level, there's other better jobs to have. I'll tell you as a fact, it takes a lot of time for an artist to make money. Real money, outside of live shows. It takes a lot of money to make, a lot of time to make money from music, as in our generation of CD. Now, not to talk of streams. So when we talk about the ecosystem, I kind of wanted you to just talk a little bit about that, and I'll go to Daco after. How can we really show how that ecosystem can be profitable and valuable if we grow it here?
Well, the truth is we need to think in resilience. And when I mean in resilience, we need to think everyone needs to see themselves in the bigger picture. When you're a CEO of a label, a CEO of a publishing company, an artist manager, you need to see yourself bigger than what you're doing. And I'm saying this because that's my experience, and that's how I built what I built. And a typical example is that we know that almost a decade ago, there was nothing like publishing in Nigeria. Producers were not paid publishing. I fought that fight, and I had people threatening me on the phone. I had people insult me in public, like, what do you mean? We've paid these guys. What I was doing then was seeing beyond myself. Like, it wasn't about me. I was thinking in programs, platform, and people. And that's the only way we can, because I mean, the truth is, where we are right now, we are only copying what we've seen work in Western markets. We are not sure that there won't be new roles locally that doesn't fit into even Western world, that it's just because it's tailored to us. We've not scratched that. We are just copying what we know has worked. But if we begin to think in resilience, and they begin to think in resilience means more than yourself for sustainability. And then when you think in platforms, you think in people, you think in programs. When you create platforms, right? You can't do it all alone. You have to bring people in. And then in that process, you discover people. And when you build programs, you can't do it alone. And also when you invest in people, it comes back. And I think that's the whole idea behind Music Business Academy, where we create programs for people through the platform. It's the same thing behind SaaS Academy, where we create platforms, programs for people. It's the same thing with Homecoming, where you've created a platform, and this is a program, and also for people. And that's the only way, because in there, you begin to see people pick up things they don't even know they're good for. And that's how I see it.
Thank you. Dapo. So Dapo, so I feel like I'm someone that can get into pretty much any room. Like I feel like, okay, I'm going to go to LA, I'm going to go to the Rock Nation brunch, I'm going to go anywhere, I'm going to go Paris Fashion Week, I'm going to go to the show. Whenever I go into any room, there's one person I always see. It's Dapo, right? And sometimes people are like, what does Dapo do? What is Dapo about? Like I get that question a lot, especially if I post it, right? But Dapo is someone that I've known. Actually, Dapo is someone that's helped us build this festival, like in the background since the beginning. When we were first coming, he would take us out, he would take me and Skepta out, he would show us things, he would introduce us to people. So I call people like Dapo allies. Dapo is an ally for culture, regardless. He's got many jobs, but he does that. When you think about entertainment at large, Dapo, and being in the rooms that you're in, when you think about the growth of that entertainment industry, what advice would you give young people right now when we're in a recession, where Nigeria is in a funny place, let's just say that, and right now, what are the things that are ways that they can lead? Where could people start leaning into to really capitalize on that creative economy?
I mean, the thing is friendship. You have to make friends across the board. I've known, Godwin for 10, 12, 15 years. She works at Chalk City. I've known Aldu for about 20 years. He works with SARS. I've known SARS for over 10 years. You as well, over 10 years. You have to make friends across the board. And when you make friends, always make sure you also build yourself. That way, your friends don't leave you behind. They will. That way, your friends don't leave you behind. As long as you are of value, you would always be able to get yourself into rooms that most times people don't think you belong in. And like I said, make friends, make contacts. Everyone likes to fly solo, and it never works. So, and we Nigerians like to do that thing where, we get into a place and then we create a little bubble out of everybody. No, you have to make sure that you connect with everybody, because everyone you see in this room today, in 20 years, 10 years, 15 years, they're going to be somewhere. And you could tap into those relationships easily. You know, I've known these three guys here for about 15, 20 years of life. So it's like, and everyone is building in the industry. First time I met Godwin was managing Wiz. Then one day, like, he's been in the industry too as well. And I would always tap into him. Now he's at Sony. He reports to John Platt. I've known John for about 15 years too. So relationships across the board, whether it's film, music, fashion, sports, just be friendly with everybody and make sure you can be of value to yourself and to them. And I believe there's no way, you know, once you have that in line, you would always be able to make something.
No, I agree. I think one of the things that I thrive on is two things. One, I'm not afraid to ask someone for something. But you remove fear, ego, and pride. I've had to do that with all of you. I had to all ask you to come here for free today to talk with me, right? So I could have said, oh, I don't know Godwin so well. Should I text him? Do you know what I mean? But you just have to get over that, like get over yourself. But secondly, your network is your network. And your net worth, rather, which is a buzzword, but it's very true. And luckily for us, we grew up in a generation pre-Instagram, right? Slightly. So slightly. But we didn't have that. We had to interact socially. So you had to make friends, you had to network, you had to talk to people. But don't discredit the value of like talking to new people. Right now in this room, there's so many new people that you don't know. You know, if you take out fear, ego, and pride, you'll be okay at moving forward with that. But let's get back to the conversation we had. So we're talking a lot about ownership and talking about how we can really bring that creative economy home. So, Ibeka, you work with Chocolate City, right? That's an African record label, right? I feel like in the wider scheme of things, most people, especially Nigerians, and this is me living here for some time, if something foreign happens, it feels bigger than if it happens at home. So, if, for instance, if Chocolate City bought Maven for £200 million, would we be as excited as people were if Universal bought them for £200 million? That's just a question. And as an outsider, I think people prefer it when it's foreign or something else happens. But what I feel personally is that if we invest into what is happening here and we actually do a bit of gatekeeping at home, we can actually own way more. Ira, you said something really interesting. On my notebook, every year I write, Nigeria has the potential to build the blueprint of what music can be. It can 100% happen because we have the talent. The streams will catch up. The growth potential will catch up. The youth population. Everything is working in our favor to do that. Now, what advice can you give young people about, through your story and your label and what you guys have built, and how important it is to support and be part of what is at home versus the other side?
I think that's a very good question. Just given the climbs and what's happening, everyone is coming into Africa to invest in the creative economy. And I think we should kind of step back a bit to kind of look at the history of that. This isn't the first time that you would have this kind of renaissance of sorts in Nigeria, right? If you think about, you know, when Sonny Ade and you think about like Sonny Ade, Femi Kuti, like Ebenezer Obey, like you had a lot of international labels that came here because the music was great and it was well accepted internationally. And I think what to do is ask ourselves, what happened? Like, why did that not work? And learn from that. It's not too far off. I think it's not too far away when, you know, we had those experiences. And I think one of the biggest things that for me is a big concern is, you know, we get very excited when we see money. We get very excited when we see, and it's understandable because for a long time we have complained to the government, we've complained to banks, we've complained to private equity firms, please invest in us, right? We this is value, invest in us. And it had to take a lot of individual, you know, conversations outside Nigeria for people locally to see the value. And I think that's the problem, is that for a long time, a lot of the banks were trying to figure out how do we value this asset as opposed to actually doing the work to learn it. So you'd sit down in different rooms, they'll call you, and then you're talking about why, intellectual property is a valuable asset if you want to take a loan, and they're still asking you for a building for collateral because they just don't understand it. And for me, the problem is long-term when you're thinking about, like you said, ownership, where is that going to reside? And I think that's a very big question that we need to ask ourselves. Businesses are going to do what businesses do. They're going to go where the money is. What we need to do is believe in ourselves enough to invest in ourselves. And we're just talking about Nigeria. I think that's another thing that I find very interesting. Like people say, okay, from Nigeria, spot is the UK and the US. For me, the US is the end game. And I understand why they're going there, right? If you generate in dollars, it's better for your business. But there's all of Africa. There's all of English-speaking Africa that is still a growth trajectory. You're either going outside or you're going across. What are we doing to kind of support each other across? So I do think that it needs to first start with us actually believing in ourselves enough to invest, because there are companies that have money. They just haven't, they're late to the game, right? And also because they don't have the expertise. That's the truth. But I still feel like if you want understanding of your work to understand it, right? There are people that do exchanges. You bring somebody into the bank, they understand, they teach you how to. I remember I met with someone from a French bank. They came here and they were doing a studies, and what they specialize in is actually valuing intellectual property. And sitting across from him, I'm thinking, this is the person that the banks need to hire as a consultant for a year to understand, how do I value local asset? Obviously putting into consideration local realities, like how do you, risk factors and things like that. You put all those things and then curate a solution that is for the market. But I just don't feel like that work is really being done, but that's where we need to do the work. What are we doing with our distribution platforms? If all my revenue is being generated in the US and in the UK, if they no longer are interested in Afrobeats, what happens? How do we make sure that we're also making money locally? And there's so many markets now that I think people are studying, look at South Korea, Asian markets. A lot of the revenue that they generate is local. And yes, coming into the markets, they have to have a different deal because they understand the value is not just outside. So I think businesses will do what businesses do. That's the only phrase that I can use. But you have to kind of make yourself valuable. And first needs to start giving the asset, properly increasing the value asset. Even if they need you, you're having conversations at the right level.
Yeah.
And I think for a lot of local companies, they're finding that out too late. But it's for other people to learn. It's something that we can do by ourselves. It's really not that hard.
Maybe to answer that question, maybe Godwin and Ira, you can help me with this, but how can we ensure that success actually benefits Africa, tangibly? You've seen it, you've done it. What were the principles that led to that success actually benefit? It might have happened on a micro level, but what was the principles that happened to make sure that success benefited Africa?
To make money from something, you have to know that you own it. And then you need to know how to use it. So if I have a property and I don't know that I could rent it out to students in an area, it's just going to be there. One day someone's going to come and say, hey, I don't want to mention any names. I'll tell you guys a secret. There's a particular beachfront in Lagos, right? That someone has basically built a row of businesses. And the reason why he's built a row of businesses is because the owners don't know what to do with the land. So he's come in there and he said, all right, I'm going to give you a 15-year lease for this place. And whatever I do with it is my business. And he's going ahead create multiple businesses across those places. And now they're like, you cheated us. It's like, no, I paid you your rent. You've agreed that I can do what I want with the space. I've paid you 10 years in advance in a contract that has a 15-year lease. You can't touch it. Worst they'll do is they'll come back in 10 years and say, hey, we want to terminate. But the idea for me is when we sit around our intellectual property, because our culture, our language, who we are, that's our IP, right? And it's not just the music we make. It's the music carries who we are. And so what we end up doing, and I think you said briefly while we were talking, is people are selling that. When we understand the right policy and framework to, one, protect our IP, the next thing we can do is we can then educate people on how to license, how to market and license that IP. That way I could take my culture to the UK and to the US, and I can ensure that the pipe comes back home. And I think that is where we're losing the fight. And the reason for that is we're not educated. You know, when I was starting MBA, I actually wanted to go to Westminster to have my degree, my master's. And I sat with the dean and I said, all right, so what do I learn? Right? And we're looking through the things, and it was evident that, which makes sense, that what I was learning in Westminster in the UK is for the UK market. There's a reason why Davido and Wiz's Son of Mercy and Sounds from the Other Side didn't do so great. You can't carry people from another place into a place where there are a lot of people doing a thing and then tell those new guys to do the same thing with people there. But there's also a reason why Soccer and Fall and If became global hits, because they carried that IP, that identity. I was talking to a few students from Cambridge, and they said to me, well, I think that Burna Boy copied Ye. I was like, okay, I will excuse the ignorance and I'll explain it to you. Burna Boy didn't copy Ye or Kanye West for Ye. What Burna Boy did was he sang a song exclaiming. That's what it was. In Africa, when you kick a table, when your foot hurts, you exclaim, yay, because it hurts. That's how we exclaim. So what Burna Boy did was to take that expression to represent complaints about the government, complaints about people not actually doing anything about their situation, and telling people to do something about it. That's what the song was about. But you see, when we're able to communicate this IP and culture to other people, they appreciate what we're providing a lot more. And when they appreciate it, we need to ensure that it's protected enough for us to generate revenue that comes back home so we can employ more people, we can educate more people, we can build systems. Japan has its own approach. If an American artist breaks into Japan today, they celebrate it, right? And I think we need to get to a point where we're already there, where you go to a Nigerian party and there's Nigerian music throughout. We're there. We need to get to the point where we're monetizing this process. Education, policy is ensuring that this IP is protected. And more importantly, we're ensuring that when the money is made, even if it's not 100%, a percentage, a larger percentage of it comes home. But here's the problem. You can't ask someone from outside to put money into your system and expect them to give you a chunk of it. It's not going to happen. So we need to start learning, how do we build our local system? This if that blew, this Soccer that blew, what structure supports that? And how do we now formalize it and brand it to ensure that we're generating local income and building locally?
No, you answered about 4 questions that I had there, but really well. Thank you so much. But it's so true, because when I think about, and I'm just going to use real life situations. So when I first met Skep, I was like, let's go to the US. Let's wear the England shirt. Let's talk with the most British accent we've got. Let's never use Americans. Let's not hang out with Americans. Let's not hang out with Americans. Let's bring more UK people. Let's look like we're from the UK. Let's walk in a pack. Let's go down the street. Let's go down Broadway as a pack, 20 of us, all in English. Let's be our most authentic self of what we want to communicate. And then everyone will be like, yo, what's up? Where are you from? You're from England? Like, it starts becoming a conversation. You lean into it. You don't say garbage. You say rubbish. Do you know what I mean? You lean into your other, right? Your thing, right? When you're away. And I think that that's really important. I think sometimes when we grow up with popular culture, it's like, oh, I don't, I see my local dyer all the time. Like, why would I dye my t-shirt with him? I want to get the one from, I want to get that shirt from America or wherever. Whereas if we lean into what we have way more chance of success. I did it with the Nigeria jersey. I remember that time when I was like, they were like, let's tone down this jersey 2018. I was like, no, it needs to be loud. I go to Nigeria. I know a Nigerian when I see one. I know a Nigerian when I see one. That's the only person I can define. I know a Nigerian when I see one. Let's not tone it down. Let's use an all black cast. They were anti it. Nike said, no, we never do all something. It has to be diverse. I was like, no, in Nigeria, it's black people. Like, we need an all black cast. We need a real Nigerian. So you push people into communicating authentically. It really works. I'm blessed to have an amazing sister who has a brand called Dye Lab. She sells one product. She sells an agbada that women can wear that is dyed hair. And they just raised $1 million. Do you know what I mean? Because she sells one product made from hair really well, simplified it. So I think that there's a lot to talk about in terms of like really leaning into how we leverage that influence of, being real authentic, but also the benefit. How does that benefit Era actually? Because we spoke about it earlier. How does that benefit African creators in that industry? How can they actually benefit from leaning into it? So 2 things that shocked me. One, that you guys here, Era, you're going to allow UK law into your country. It's so funny when I do a contract, right, for SARS. We say, what law are we going to follow? Is it going to be American law? Is it going to be UK law? What do you understand? Now Nigeria is just on a deal with the UK in law. So I know, but it's not fully. I read into it. It's not fully cancelled yet, is it?
Yeah,
But just a backstory. Our point is that there's a whole legal sector to be built. It's not defined. Everything ends with law. Every single deal you'll make is law. He's the most important person on this planet. He's the law. It's like everything we do ends with a contract, a partnership, a legal agreement. We don't have a policy here for the creative sector. We don't have our own.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's much more legal than business, and I'll try and simplify it as much as possible. But for lawyers who are here, they understand what we call conflict of laws. Now, I must be honest about this. Nigeria is still a very young country. And that's my grouse with people who throw Nigeria to the bus at every instance. Nigeria, we've only reviewed our copyright law practically twice. But, because of dispensation, military dispensation, we've had 4 drafts. We've had many drafts. But we've had the I think the 60-something and then the 2022 by Buhari. So, our copyright regime in Nigeria has not grown and matured enough. And when I mean copyright regime, from the Copyright Office to the judicial system to the courts, bailiff and execute. I can categorically tell you that judges, and I've said it several times, and people have come to argue with me, I just laugh. Judges in Nigeria do not know how to adjudicate disputes on intellectual property. You have to always use analogy of a product, like, sir, if you buy 2 tomato and you give me license, you have to be doing that in court. In UK court, you cannot do that. The UK has had about 12 or 15 drafts, on copyright law. The UK law has a lot of precedents to rely on. The educatory process in the UK, max 1 year, you get what you're looking for. The case I can reference to you on copyright law, a landmark case in Nigeria, maybe some on CRBT, but the landmark that is popular enough is between Sonny Ade and Abioro, and it lasted for about 12 to 15 years. I mean, do you think I want to? So there's me being a patriot as a Nigerian, and there's me being a businessman who wants quick dispute resolution. I want to know my fate. I want to know if I'm right or I'm wrong. I want to know my remedies. So we rely on UK law because obviously almost all our laws until date is modeled. And you know that happens when we're writing contract and somebody says it is masters and I mean it's sound recording. No, what is masters? I'm like, sound recording and masters is the same. Sound recording is the UK language, masters is the US language. And when you say neighboring rights, and I'm like, performance royalties, no, it's neighboring rights, it's the same, it's language. We, UK, whether we like it or not, are colonial masters. Our copyright law isn't something we developed ourselves. It is something that was given to us to protect colonial interests. and that is why, for a very long time, you could see that the remedies that you pay for piracy is like 100 naira. Somebody's protecting themselves. So I'm like, we cannot run the race. I can't drink water, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Good. We cannot run the race more than time. We must appreciate where we are, and we must know the duty that is on us as a generation. This generation, particularly millennials and Gen Z, we have so much on our shoulders to build, but we are not acknowledging it. We rather run and rely, or we rather be greedy about things, which I need to be honest about. Every progressive system you have seen in Nigeria today about copyright, music, was not done without full-blown war. I mean, when I mean war, people attack each other physically. People attack each other emotionally, abuse each other. We have not grown to a place where we all come together and say, I was wrong, you were right, we were not doing it right, let's come together and do something better, right? That's with the law. But how can creators benefit? Creators now, unfortunately, are the one who needs to build the new system. They are the ones who have money amongst us. The only reason why the copyright system and in Nigeria will not grow is that the guys who have money amongst us will rather buy designer bags, fly expensive, as opposed to sponsor elections, sponsor senators. The Music Modernization Act that created the MLC in the US that allows Pandora and Co to now pay for neighboring rights that we are getting money from now was sponsored by Creative. They brought their money together. It's the same in the UK. The EU copyright law that is attacking AI was sponsored by Creative. So there is no benefit for where you have not put money. We have to be honest about that. If creatives are not going to form a body, they're not going to attend CMO meetings, they're not going to attend association meetings and they expect that things will work, then don't worry, things will not work. We'll continue to use UK law and run to the US. If it will work, artists will fly trips and come home to fix things. They will tell their label as there's another country to remove 10% and donate it to the associations. They will remove money from their pocket to sponsor lawyers globally. And they would picket in front of the State House of Assembly and call for panels. So creators should expect nothing where they have not put something.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Actually, it's a good question for Dapo because Dapo also, like some of my other friends, are young people that are quite close to politics, like in a more lifestyle way. But when you're there in that space, you have more of a point of view of seeing an opportunity. Like, how can young people actually get into helping form those policies? How can young people actually get into be seen by, like the government and have a voice? How can we, got such a young population? When I look at it, I'm like, how are these people making the do you know what I mean? How can there seems to be a disconnect? How do we get young people? One, how do we get more young people there in key steps? Like, what's the gateway? Let's start there.
I mean, the thing is very, very, very simple. You have a society now where it's cool to be anti-government. And while that is, personal choice, I believe if you're going to achieve anything, you need a government on your side. So people like myself, I've been active in politics in Nigeria since 2011. There's pretty much no politician in the country today that's worth knowing that I don't personally know. I've done work for them. I've sponsored them. I've put things on the line for them. So it's like, you have to build these relationships too as well. Like I said, networking across the board. There's a lot of young people going into politics these days, as you can see with Lagos, for example. There's a lot more common minds in the government these days. So if you're looking at what you see with the current president, he knows exactly what the art, culture, and creative economy needs. And that's why they actually removed that. They actually created that new ministry, and they put someone like Hanatu there. And Hanatu was mandated as a Minister of Arts, Culture, and Creative Economy to bring out the best minds from that space. So if you look at, she has Obi Asika, she has Relay Holloway, heading museums. Like, now you're gonna have young guys who know about this stuff in positions. Before, those positions were filled by party members, just, placeholders, compensation-wise for what they did during the elections. But now you have young guys like myself who are also being part of the process now and demanding what they want if they win. So we young people need to get closer to the electioneering process. If you want to get any change or get any policy in place, you have to get closer. And this particular government is definitely the most open-minded so far. So, I mean, you've seen, you met with Toke Benson, you've seen that's on the Lagos level, you've seen what the Lagos State Governor is doing in the creative economy space. They're sponsoring Eco Film City, they're sponsoring Del York, Ogidi Studios. They're spending a lot of money in that space. The federal government is about to do the same thing too as well. The fund that me and you keep speaking about, the fund, the IDICE fund for the creative economy. These are things that they're putting in place to liberate the sector. But you have to get close. You can't be on the offensive. You have to get close. And we young people have to pick a side. It's either we work on the government or we're just gonna have to wait a very long time. So
sorry, just
that's it
on that. I think I can understand why people feel far. I can understand, like, just sitting in my house, I create music. I can understand why the government seems really far away. But I think that you can, depending on who you are, there are organizations that are being set up now to support creators. So, let me talk like this with label, for example. The label is also a creator, an owner, a master of work. How is that label looking to get involved in policies that, are addressing collective, for example? And now what we have is record labels, the Record Label Association that addresses that from the master side. And you have organizations on the publishing side that are also addressing that. And they interface a lot with government. So I would first join one of those organizations, because ASCAP, BMI, all these collective management organizations in the US and the UK were all formed because people joined organizations. Like, it's very hard for you to be relevant to a government if you don't come as a unit. Right? You have to come as a collective. If you're coming by yourself, you don't really have a voice. And so it's like, we need to join these organizations that exist, because there's no way, they have to kind of contact you. And that's your way to kind of contribute on personal, actually fixing a lot of things. The copyright law that was just passed, they had to contact these organizations to say, we want to do a reading, we want representatives there to vet to see if this actually solves your problems, right? So I would just say look for a national organization that you can join if you're a or you're an artist, and then join the meeting and kind of contribute.
Share with the social media later. Just
sure.
Organizations, because I don't even know them. I think one of the key things that are hardest for me in this country right now is like finding resources. Like, where do you find that information? There's nowhere where it's like collated. Maybe that's an opportunity for someone in this room to create some sort of platform that can put everything in one place, because it's only over the place, right? The second thing is, from us, all of us, and I want us to all answer this question really simply. Like, we've said, we've set up, this could be going for 5 hours. It should next time. But how do young people, with the lack of education here in the creative sector, how do young people actually get careers in this sector? And like,
how to get what?
You have official jobs now. How can you give them just like a couple of steps, like literally a top line before we answer some questions? How can a young person without a film school or a music school or the Brit school or the actually start to form a career? Because what we have, when people criticize our music, it's like most of that is self-made. It's someone just being talented without any development. They make some music in a hotel or in their bedroom and they put it out. That's usually the process. It's not that much of there are labels now that really develop arts, but so how do people get those careers in that creative sector at large? What would be some of your tips?
Great. I didn't hear the question.
He's going to answer.
Oh, right.
So we have to look at this from the creative side and from the business side, because one of the things that happens is, and I don't know if you guys are aware, if an artist experiences mild, that artist can employ 2 to 10 people, like mild, easily, right? So that means for 1,000 artists, you're looking at about 3,000 to 10,000 jobs. So the problem here is, most of the time the conversation is lopsided. There's a lot of effort towards the creatives. There is no effort towards the creative entrepreneur or the business people or the employees within the sector. So I think across board, there has to be a pipeline, an approach towards how you come in. The bar has dropped exceedingly low from the creative and the business side. For that reason, there is saturation. So it's much harder for you to see yourself in a place because there are too many people in there, right? And the only way, and I think regardless of the bar, you have to set a bar. You have to decide, what is the bar I want to get to? So it's difficult for the guys sitting at the bottom, not doing the work, to get there. That's a personal or business decision you have to make. Now, an approach for me would be, for the creative, is sometimes we want to be successful, but an overnight success takes 10 years. So you have to be willing to grind. You have to be willing to learn under someone. So if you're an artist, which artist would you like to be like or learn from? Can you play the drums for that person? Can you be a backing singer? Can you learn, what can you learn to develop yourself and build your own audience gradually? I know, the internet is there. I can go sit in front of my computer, create a new song, put on my Instagram live, and I can play the guitar, and hopefully I'm Justin Bieber. Great. But the reality is that's 1 in a million people that get that opportunity. You're not going to be Shawn Mendes all the time, and you're not going to be Justin Bieber all the time. What we need to think about is, how do I gradually grow my audience? How do I understand my audience? How do I talk to them on a regular basis? And this is for creatives. When you, as a young creative, you don't have money and you don't have an audience, you don't have a catalog, and someone says to you, this song you're about to put out, prepare your next single. Prepare 5-10 singles in advance, which means you need to record 100 songs, which means that you need to ensure that you're posting, and your first reaction is, look, I put my heart into this and you can't tell me what to do. Or post pictures and you're like, it's not cool. Like, what? Like, I want people to see the one I posted first. Okay, great. Now the reality is, if you're not putting in the work, everybody's gonna move on. The horrible thing about the saturation is that people also don't have the time for you. So if you don't put stuff out to engage them, they're not going to talk to you. They're just going to look at the guy who's putting out stuff and focus on him. For the business guys, when I was talking about going to the dean of the music business program at Westminster, when I realized that it wasn't working, or I couldn't do most of the things in the UK here, I came back home and I said, look, let me look around. There must be a university in Africa that understands Africa, our own lifestyle and policies, and there's none. There are over 1,200 universities in Africa, and none offers music business management as a program. So I built one, right? So I decided we're going to build something that works, right? So we partnered with a professor from NYU in the music business department, and we developed a curriculum that was a global curriculum, but one that could adapt to the local market. And then we started training people. We've trained over 1,000 people. We have people working at Chocolate City. We have people working at Maven. We have people working across different, even my head of admin in my office is an alumnus. So for me, the education part of it, you have to find, the internet provides a truckload of information, and it hits you in a way that you then confuse yourself about what is what, right? One website says this is what publishing is. Another website says this is what publishing is, but if you do it like this, this is how you can make money. Someone has to carry that information and cut it into sizes that you can digest better. And that's what we've been able to do. So I don't mean to plug, but I would say register for the Music Business Academy for Africa. Now, what we've done as well is we recognize not everybody. It's, first of all, if I tell you how much it costs, you'd laugh, right? It costs about $200, but minimum wage in Nigeria is about $30. So even if it costs $200, people are looking at it as cheap abroad, it is still expensive here. So what we've done is we've set up boot camps, free boot camps for people. Last year we partnered with Maven, we partnered with DMC, we partnered with a few companies, Eclipse for Giddy Fest, and we basically set up boot camps for the recording industry, the publishing industry, the live industry, the tech industry, tech for music, and support services, which is managers, etc. And we registered 3,000 people, free. Access the program, you can learn what you need to learn, and can move on. So these are things that we do. For those who may be out of town, it's online. But I think even for you, from a business point of view, you have to look at who are the people I want to copy. And there's nothing wrong with saying I want to copy, because if you can't see it, you can't, if you don't envision it, you can't do it. So if you see someone doing something, you're able to say, I like how this person does business. Let me learn how this person does business. And by learning, you then begin to carry information that shapes your own input. So when you say, okay, I like how this person does it, but this is how I would do it, that's where you start creating your own USP and your own solution. So my advice would be find mentors, find processes, put yourself in those processes, grow within those processes and systems, and then you'll be able to identify what you can put into that process as well.
Thank you so much for, well, you covered it, I think.
Yeah.
But I think we've got time for a few questions. If anyone has any, can you just raise your hand? Chivo.
Or
Fred.
it's in the
Yo, what's up? My name is Freshell. For you.
Mike.
So, Love Fantasy just went 8 times platinum. Congrats on that. I'm sure that's like the biggest you guys have done. What would it take for CK to like buy his masters?
What would it take
That
him
happen?
to buy his masters? So we have deals where people can actually come and have that conversation. You just have to do evaluation of what that is. But obviously, so it's very different for a lot of record labels. That's the heart of a record label, is catalog ownership, you know, whether you like it or not. Some contracts allow for you to do that. Some contracts don't necessarily allow for you to do that. So for CK, I guess you can come and have a conversation, and then we will figure out what the value of that is.
Okay, so typically it's not just a money thing. There's some contracts that actually say you can't buy your masters back.
This is why I'm saying law is the most
Yeah,
important thing.
whatever you agree.
Well, what would you? I've seen, like, in my career, in my lifetime, I've seen deals go from really dirty to really clean, depending on your lawyer. That's really as simple as it is. Your lawyer has the key to make you have a good deal. Whenever I speak to my lawyer first, I say I want to push them as hard as possible. The other way, the other direction that they're in, I want to go the exact opposite way. Because wherever we meet will probably be the fair place, right? So with any deal, it's like, I've seen crazy deals where, like, there's license deals now, there's distribution deals, there's buyout clauses.
There's license deals that are really artist deals.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, there's all these new deals and there's so many creative ways. That's why when I was talking about IRA and the work in law, I think that's the most exciting industry to be in right now, in all honesty, because you have you can make this space clean. You can clean it up. Because when I first came here, when I first tried to do my panel about ownership, the stares I got from my contemporaries when I was telling people, like, your lawyer can't do this, your manager, you should earn this amount as a manager, you should do this, you should have a contract. People were like, no, don't tell them. Do you know what I mean? Don't tell them that, because that's not what we want. We want to get, we have to remember where we are. People want to make money, right? So when you've got fair deals in a place that is emerging, it's not as exciting to the team. So, but now we're in a better place with it. But I would say to you that any deal you get as an artist, get a lawyer. There's absolutely no way on earth you should sign a deal without a lawyer. Anyone, if you've got a deal, you can even get a deal just read by a lawyer for a few £100, do you know what I mean? It's worth it. In most deals, you can add the legal fees to the deal. Most deals,
Great.
you can add.
I think there's different levels to lawyers too.
Sorry?
I think there's different levels on it. Well,
Yeah, there is, exactly. But I'm saying to you, as a fact now, these are things that are factual, no matter where you do a deal.
So what I would say is that I like the idea of ownership. I'm very pro-artist generally in my dispensation.
Yeah.
But I found that, like, there's so many artists that I've come across, and we're sitting across the table and we're having a negotiation, and it's just like, I want to own this, I want to own that, and I want to own that, and everything's ownership. And then I'm looking at you like, why are you across from me?
Facts.
Like, if you want to own what, I'm not going to just give you money, right? So I think, like, we have to think about it from, like, there's balance to it. Because there's also a danger with owning, but you're not doing anything with it,
Yeah.
There's responsibility.
right? There's an agency that comes with ownership. And I think that, ownership also requires you understanding, like you were saying, the value of what you have, so that you could make people around you to help you monetize it. Otherwise, you're sitting on 100% of nothing. So I think people just need to also be which is why she said it's important to have a really good lawyer. A really good lawyer understands. I mean, look, there's really bad deals, and then there's fair deals where you're like, look, okay, you're gonna work this project, you're gonna earn XYZ for a period of time. After that, I want some rights that will revert back to me. And then you can figure out, like, okay, is that 25 years, is that 15 years? Then why should it be that? Like, there's so many things that you can do. But I also want to just tell a lot of people, because I find that a lot of young people are just like, I want to own it. But then 10 years down the line, your contemporaries are like blown up because they partnered with people and, they partner with labels because no, labels are horrible. But then people are blowing up with labels, but they just had lawyers that were smart to do the right deals with the labels. So I think it's balance.
So, next person. My name is Peter Ohemo, and I was opportune to attend the most advanced music business academy in Africa in 2021. And since 2021, I've been studying the markets. And I feel like there's an important part you guys are missing. From you guys here, there's Grace has had funding from Nike and all these guys. And I know that Chocolate City is with Universal, and I know that MBA is with, that we've been with music, YouTube Music for a minute, and there's SARS Academy that's been with United Masters for a minute, and this is major funding. But what about us, like the creatives that don't have this access? I'm talking about, okay, I'll give you a typical example. You talked about the Japanese market and other countries. When they are big companies like Spotify and others, when they are trying to do something small, they give a smaller company the work to handle.
Yeah.
But when we're talking about Nigeria, United Masters brought a whole team.
Yeah.
Like, there's literally no opportunity for like coming up creative. Like, I don't know what deal we can have now that Chocolate City can say, okay, you as this upcoming creative will give you $5,000. It's small money, but they can't give you like they don't trust you.
So I'll speak to that.
Yeah, they're working with their guys. That's why Mr. Dapo said you have to know people. That's the typical Nigerian market. If you don't know anybody, there's nothing. Like, you can't even introduce yourself right now. It's 2024 and you can't introduce yourself as a music business executive, because how are you getting money? Like, that conversation is a no.
So before IB answers, I just want to say something. I think, and it's general to creative, right? Nobody will give you anything for free. I'll say, I'm so sorry, I'm not pro-artist, I'm not pro-label, I'm pro-business, right?
Absolutely.
I don't really care about all that right? I don't pander to narratives. So I'm just going to tell you this, right? Everybody wants to make money when you hear business. And what that means is that you must come to table with what? Value. So why should anyone give you money when you've not earned the value? If we were going to give just any Tom, Dick, and Harry business money, then we can as well stay on the street and give anybody that has money for $5,000. You have to, I know where you're coming from. I'll give you an example. Everybody that goes to SARS Academy, we don't know them before. I can tell you for a fact. Nobody, in fact, we know, we cracked that joke online where two people that made it to SARS Academy, Dooney and Fortune, said they met SARS at an event. They took a picture with him and they put the picture in the middle of the Bible. And they got chosen. Yes, it's online. We cracked that joke. Everybody must come to the table with value and go home with value. That lie that we have to say, I need you to help me so I can... No. It's a lie. We need to forget that. We need to put it in history books and say that was when we were all in the dark ages. That's our dark ages.
And I need to that's our counter something you said. When I said you need to know people, I mean contacts. Make friends with people. Investing in yourself will cost money if you don't know people. But if I know him, okay, he's my friend, he owns a studio, Godwin, I beg, give me 1 hour. Get it. Like that. You use what you have around you to support yourself and your aspirations. So when I say know people, it's not like no hire people. Just be friendly around. That way you hear stuff, you hear of opportunities, you get invited places. It betters you. So that's what I need to correct.
Sorry. Yeah. How I met my mentor, which was my get into the industry, I paid for a dinner at Rhapsody. Rhapsody was the biggest dinner there in Palms. It was one of the biggest restaurants. I paid for a dinner date with himself and his friend, and it was my whole 2 months salary. Yes, that's how I met Ayoshonaya and the band. Yeah. I agreed to. He said, "Oh, they are busy already." I said, "Please wait there. I will pay for the extra hour waiting." I was on a strap bag. I had a strap bag and I had a car there. I paid for the whole thing and I was around the table. And they were all just throwing questions at me as they were eating the food. That was my genesis into knowing what the music industry
I
was all
won't
about.
advise that one, child.
No, of course. I mean, I'm just telling you mine. I made the sacrifice to be there, and I can count on that. I mentioned here earlier how I met SARS. It was a DJ at Brilla FM, DJ Music. I went to sit outside the studio of Brilla FM for 2 hours in the sun. And when he came out to say what I was looking for, I said, I have an idea. I said, okay, you know what, meet me at Friday, Famous Friends, a week after. I went a week after, SARS was around. The week after, the third week I was there. I waited 3 hours outside in the sun. And then I entered the studio and I did only 3 minutes presentation. The person I was coming to me didn't even listen to everything before he said, let's do it. So, right, you cannot be, we need to do something to ourselves. We need to stop being victims. We need to ask people, how did you do it? Find out how they did it, no matter what it costs you, and do it the way they did it, or find a way better. We need to all leave the victim mentality behind.
Yeah, I just want to say something quickly. So, in 2020, I borrowed 6 million naira to start MBA. In that 2020, remember there was a pandemic. Also in 2020 was married. Woo! 2020 was the year my son came. So there's a lot of things going on. In 2021, I thought, okay, I had 140 people register online. I'm doing well. Let's push MBA. So I went out and I looked for money. I wrote over 100 proposals. I spoke to over 100 companies. Nobody gave me money.
Towers.
Actually, Sterling Bank gave me money. They gave me 2 million naira to sponsor 20 women, right? And I had to run this program with about 50 million. So now we are still at a place now where we are still investing, but now I have partners. I have YouTube. But the only reason why that happened was because we went through that phase of, yes, we were rejected, but we have to build value. Now, there's something everybody talks about, which is what I'm going to do in my keynote. Everybody wants collaboration. But there's no collaboration without an exchange of value. None. What you have is a favor in that instance, or exploitation. One of the two things will happen. Somebody's going to do you a favor, or someone's going to exploit you. If there is an exchange of value. So in response to you, I would say this. If you want people to see you, this is the analogy I will give you. I don't know, there are a lot of people that look like they're not from here, so I'm going to try and paint a picture. There's a place called Igondo in Lagos, right? Igondo is almost outskirts, right? Now there's a bridge coming out of Igondo that leads you around the Solo, right? That bridge is dark. There is the lights, I think there are lights there, they don't work. If your car breaks down on that road, no one's stopping to help you. Because chances are, someone might jump out of the bush and attack. So nobody's helping. You can wave all you want, flash your touch lights, do everything. Just less than a mile away from that bridge is a fuel station where there's a lot of light. If you push your car there, people are likely to help you. One of the biggest problems I find with a lot of young people and creatives is nobody wants to push their car out of the darkness. You want someone to help you, but people are not sure. They're not sure if you're ready to work. They're not sure if there's any level of precedence or something you've done to reference for the work that they can support. They're not sure of anything. So what you're asking them to do is gamble with their money or with their lives or with their time. And some people don't have that patience. They don't have that time and they don't have that money to waste. So what happens is you need to push your career so people see it. The people who, as he said, when SARS says, I hear that, that's him seeing the work and the investment that has been put into the business. So my advice to you is push your car to the light.
I'll just say one thing very quickly. I understand what you mean when you say that people are not, you don't feel seen. And I get that. I totally understand that. I think that there's steps though to be seen, right? If there's no formal education, there's informal education, which is apprenticeship. You can start literally at that level and build up. So, for example, you're saying, oh, people are doing concerts, they're bringing in, international. Did you try to volunteer, for example? No, maybe you did, I don't know. But there's so many people in Nigeria that's how they get their jobs. It's just like, I saw an opportunity, I really wanted to learn. I went there and I said, I want to learn. I may not have the money for it. I may not have somebody sponsoring me to MBA, but I went there and I worked with the team, and that's how they started learning. And there are in Nigeria that actually sponsor talent. The truth is that even if you go there, you still need to show value. So they may not necessarily be sponsoring, you're saying, oh, you need sponsors and people to put money down. That's fine, but it's still to prove to them that this is the value add. So what's your resume saying, right? So I think it's important that you have to build up to a certain level. Then even if it's a little money that you're getting from the local partners here, at least you have something to back it up.
And I also feel like the best things happen when you have to be creative. Like I swear, I promise you, if you have $10,000 for a music video, or you have $100,000, the 10,000 one will be better. I'll tell you as a fact, because you have no resources trying to make the best work. When you can blow money fast, as we call it, blowing money fast, you just pay for figures to happen. So I would say, and one of the crazy things is, I'm here today, I don't feel seen. I don't feel supported. I feel like the Nigerian government should back us. Are they backing us? Do you know what I mean? I've been working 6 years. Every year, same thing, go again. I've seen Godwin when he was managing Wizkid. I've seen him go again and again and again and again, regardless of whether people are seeing him or not. Today I woke up and said, 50% of the people that I asked to do stuff today haven't replied. I just leaned into the 50% that had. Anyone that replied to me, I said, thank you so much, let's go. It doesn't matter. Sometimes we can be, I can say as someone that has been hustling for 15 years, I'll tell you that. And I tell you, interns have the best opportunities. If you give someone your time and you're good, you are seen. I'll tell you that. If you see a good intern, I spot them all the time. I'm like, that's your intern, I will hire her. She's amazing. Do you know what I mean? She made my life easier. She made it better. Do you know what I mean? When you're working for someone and you want to be seen, I'm not saying it has to be free, but be around the thing. If someone wants to find me, there's moments that I'm vulnerable. Today's a great day to talk to Grace. I'm here, I'm on education leave. I'm going to give you my number. Like, if you're quick, you'll follow up today. Give me what you need to say or whatever. So seize your opportunity while you have it. There's people in this room from all over the world that are like amazing. If you want to talk to people and be seen and you're good and you're ready, people will hear you. I'll tell you one thing about talent. We never deny it. If you're talented, you're talented. Yeah. I remember booking Rema for his first show at Homecoming. He only had 4 records. Everyone said, you're crazy. Toby Aladi popped in and said, I will not pay Rema 1 million naira to perform. He said, I refuse because he's brand new. He's never performed before. And I said, Toby, this one occasion, I've heard you, but I'm going to let him perform because for me, Rema poured into that EP. That was one of the best EPs I've ever heard from this continent at that time. Do you know what I mean? So he showed me his value. I didn't know him. I'd never met him. I just heard a record and I said, well, I'm booking that person. I want him to, do you know what I mean? So his talent was undoubtedly. If you're talented, no one can deny it. If you've worked hard at it, no one can deny it. But that fit is on you. Like, I think we can develop better. I'm always getting better. I'm learning from these guys every day. I text Dapper, I text Irid, I talk to them, I ask them questions, I challenge myself. I get better at what I'm doing. So don't feel like no one is there yet. We're all students. I'll tell you that as a fact. No one is there yet. There's something to learn. So I would say, like, instead of going into, like, sometimes what I do, I try and take myself out the victim and just be like, lean into what's working. Let's go. Okay, I can't book this photographer. Let me use this one. Just make it work. That's what I would say. But I think we've got to wrap it up now, unless this is the final question. But we're running behind. So
I'm sure this is a question you've heard a lot of times, but I want it like unfiltered this time. The realest of it. So, what exactly do you look out for? Talent in the executive side or the artist side? What exactly do you look out for? What are those things that you see and then you say, okay, this is
The thing, okay.
I think on the
Let me start as a manager.
on the executive
I'm
side?
going to start as a manager, then we'll go into the thing. On the talent side, I work with people that no matter what, they're still going to do that job. If someone is doing it and they're like, oh, I'm just doing it to see if it's going to work, no matter what, they wake up, that's the first thing they think about. That's the first thing they want to do. They get better at it. They're not looking at what anyone's doing. They're just focusing on what they're doing. Someone that is like learning, that is listening to music. When I work with Nigerian artists, I always say, send me a playlist of what you're listening to. Send me what you're listening to. I want to know what's in, what kind of, do you know what I mean? How are you creating? You know, what are you creating from? Are you looking at other great people that are doing things? Like, are you listening to Frank Ocean, who's great? Are you listening to a great pianist? Are you listening to other people that are really good at what they do? Or are you just like, I know everything and I'm ready to do it? I look for people that are really pushing themselves to greatness, you know? I look for people that are reliable. If you say, we're going to try, we're trying. We have to compromise. People that are always saying, no, I don't want to do it. I don't want to try this. I can't work with, because I don't have time to do the work for you. If you don't want to post your own album, what can I do? You can't. I'm doing a talk with Odumodu Black tomorrow because I can learn from him. There's not one thing that I don't see that Odumodu does. If he's going to perform at his friend's birthday party, I will know about it. Do you know what I mean? He's showing me you will not escape me. I'm telling you, I'm the best. Everything I do is the best. Doesn't matter if he's creative, is good or bad. It's in my face regardless. And I'm not like that. I'm the opposite to that, actually. So I want to learn from him. How do I do that? You know, so as an artist, it's not to say that you have to change yourself and be like on social media making TikToks, but you have to push your product if you think it's good. You can't say my team's going to push it. Stop saying my team. What are you doing? You know, I say to my artists, before I go and talk to someone that I know, you DM them. Yeah, I know this person, but you DM them first. Go and ask them for what you want, then I'll follow up. And then say, yo, Godman text you, man, Drake. Like, can you reply him? He's a good guy. I can't go and say, can you go and talk to... No, you do your work, you know? So I've said that those are really important things. You have to want it more than anyone that's working for you. You're not there to be worked for. You're, you know, like I say to, like artists, like, yes, they employ everyone, but ultimately they're the product, right? You're the product. So your product has to be the reason everyone gets up today. If the product is not desirable, no one's going to want to push it. Do you understand what I'm saying? So you have to work. I think that this generation is the worst at putting in the work. I'll tell you that as a fact. You do not want to work. You don't want to work, right? I come from nothing. I'm self-made. I've made my own luck, right, in life. So the whole working thing, I don't play with that. I've worked hard to get here. So you have to work harder than me at what you want to do. If I see that, then I'm like, I'll work with anyone. I'll be like, let's start developing. Iraj, you know, the producers at SARS Academy, you don't have to be here. The talent can be seen at any level, but that essence is the same.
I'm sorry, I have to say something. I'm not looking for anything.
basically impressed me.
I'm trying to identify what you can do for me.
Yeah.
Because if you want to work for me or work with me, you have to bring something that I'm not able to do.
Yeah.
So what I'm looking for depends on what I need, right? So sometimes someone says, I can do this thing, and I'm like, I'm sorry, but I have someone doing that, so I don't need that. What I need, and you're like, oh, I don't know how to do that, then you're not the guy I need. It's as simple as that. The biggest thing I think young people, and I'm young, please, you understand? I've used this cap to cover white hair as well. But the thing is, a lot of the time, young people in the business now are looking up instead of looking around. That's a big problem, because when you're trying to talk to somebody up there, that person is already like, you are 1 in 1,000 emails that they're getting. I don't listen to music anymore. Music goes through a sieving process to get to me. It's either there's a thing on Spotify that I listen to, or I have my A&R team compile music I should hear for the week to decide if we're putting somebody who wrote that song. Because that's how listening to music for me now is a job, right? So when I listen to a song, I'm thinking, who wrote that song? Who produced that song? A&R guy, can you find this guy? Let's figure out what else he's writing and what else he's doing. It's a job. So now I don't. But what I would say to you is look around you. Who are the guys who are giving it their best right now at your level? Build relationships with them. The guys who I can pick the phone and call, who are brand managers, MDs, all these other guys, are guys I grew up with. Are guys who I was hustling with. When I came into the industry, all of us are trying to figure it out. We became friends. We hang out together. We go to parties. We talk about our challenges, talk about solutions, and then build value. We know the guys who go to venues and are nuisances, right? They just come to the venue. They always want to have a 5-minute conversation with you that will last 20 minutes. People avoid them, and that's the truth. When they start coming, you're like, are you the one that's going to talk to this guy today? Oh, let's just be busy. And we walk. It happens. But we also know the guys that we are looking for at the venue. We know the guys that you see this guy, I'm going to take this guy from this company. I'm going to take this guy from these guys. Like, how much are they paying him right now? What's your more? He's 100K. I'll give you 2, right? We know those guys. And it's because they are working. As she said, put your head down. Whether anybody's looking or not, you're doing your job. So that's my advice. But my biggest advice regarding getting jobs, getting opportunities, being part of a network, a part of a community, look around you. You will look up eventually, but look around you. What will shock you is you look around you long enough and do what you need to do with the people around you that you'll be sitting with the guy who you were looking at before. I tell my students, when you graduate, I look forward to meeting you as my colleague. Because eventually, I'm going to sit. I sat in the room the other day. My head of admin is going through it with a student who represents an artist. And they're both arguing a Sony music publishing contract. And I'm just sitting in the middle like, I'm not going to get involved, right? But the idea is, the guy who runs DMCE that we've partnered with that are bringing in legendary artists is someone who went through my program. So for me, the excitement there is he's run around in circles where he can grow until he's gotten to where I'm sitting, and he doesn't need to ask me for anything. In fact, I'm paying him to offer me a service.
So that's everything. Sorry.
I will just say that for talent, for me, I look for people that know exactly what you are about, because it's very difficult as a label to sell something that you don't even know. I'm selling your vision. So if you're not clear on what it is, and I always come back, that changes. People don't need to have all the answers. As artists develop, they change, and you always kind of want to know that you're building something that you have a vision for. And then on the executive side, I think for me, it's just personality. Like, do you have the personality to work alone? Somebody else is there doing the work, and you sit in a room and not be distracted and focus on your work. That's what I look at.
Anything else? We're good?
Well, I don't know, man. Exceptionality. Like, everyone who walks around me are the best of their type in their fields.
So there's lots of different options there. I wanted to thank everyone on the panel today. Oh, wait, I'm just saying. That's all.
Yeah.
So I want to thank you all for being here today. Ibuka, Godwin, Ira, Dapo, thank you so much for your time. It's been amazing. I would love to thank everyone in this room as well.